Imagine being caught in the middle of a high-stakes, life-or-death drama, and the one creature you fear the most becomes your unexpected savior. What if I told you a rhinoceros, stripped of its most famous weapon, held the key to survival for an entire herd? Ranger Elias, a seasoned observer of the Northern Savannah Ridge, was the only witness that day. He sat in his vehicle, the dust of the arid plains settling on his uniform, watching a primal tension unfold. This story isn't just about survival. It's about the quiet power of conservation and the strange, beautiful way the wild finds its balance. Stay tuned, because this is a story that restored Elias's faith. For Ranger Elias, this particular morning started like any other, an ordinary drive, observing the subtle shifts in the savannah. The landscape was a mosaic of golden grasslands dotted with iconic acacia trees. But today, the silence was a lie, and the landscape was about to reveal a primal tension he recognized instantly. Elias drove slowly, his eyes trained on the middle distance, where a small, agitated herd of Cape buffalo grazed nervously. He knew the signals. The buffalo shifted, their immense, powerful bodies betraying their fear with subtle movements. Their fate was already decided by the presence of a solitary male lion, patiently stalking from the cover of the dense brush line. The male lion was magnificent, its thick mane blending perfectly with the arid, golden hue of the winter grasses. Elias knew its technique, relentless, calculating, exploiting every advantage. It was a formidable predator, built for the kill. The Cape buffalo, for all their collective strength and reputation for vicious defense, were vulnerable. Their typical strategy was to form a tight, defensive mob, but their current position, pinned between thickets and the road, left them exposed. Elias, the human element in this unfolding drama, anchored himself to the moment. His role was to observe and protect the delicate balance, not to interfere, unless the safety protocol demanded it. He recorded the coordinates and the movements, a silent guardian witnessing nature's unforgiving necessity. He felt the familiar ache of watching the circle of life, knowing that for one to live, another must fall. However, the scene was about to get complicated. The buffalo suddenly broke their formation, not fleeing from the lion behind them, but recoiling from something immense that was approaching their front. Elias squinted, and his heart gave a cold jerk. Blocking their only clear escape path was a massive rhinoceros. This was no longer a simple hunt. It was a devastating triangle of terror. The hunt changed abruptly, not by the lion's speed or the buffalo's fight, but by the quiet, lumbering entrance of the rhinoceros. This colossal herbivore moved with an immense, indifferent authority. The rhinoceros, a creature of staggering power, had simply been grazing on the lush green grass near the roadside ditch when the sound of the approaching buffalo startled it. The buffalo herd, trapped between the jaws of the predator and the bulk of the giant, made a desperate decision. They tried to push past the rhinoceros, hoping to use its sheer size as temporary cover. What followed was chaotic and immediate. The rhinoceros, territorial and irritated by the sudden intrusion, reacted with a powerful surge of defensive energy. It lowered its head, letting out a snort, and lunged. There was no horn to spear, but the sheer force of its momentum and bony boss was enough. The buffalo were not injured, but they were violently scattered. They burst into a frenzied stampede, kicking up a thick cloud of red dust as they bolted past the rhinoceros and out toward the safety of the brush, disappearing into the cover of the acacia trees. The rhinoceros stood its ground, stomping once, its body language aggressive and dominating. It was asserting its right of way. The lion, which had been preparing to make its final sprint, was utterly bewildered. Its quarry was gone, dispersed by an unpredictable force. The predator stood frozen on the dusty track, staring down the lane at the dust cloud and the immense shape of the rhinoceros. The lion's hunger was abruptly overridden by a primal, evolutionary caution. A full-grown rhinoceros is not a meal, but a potential danger. Elias's heart pounded, adrenaline surging through him. He braced himself as the rhinoceros turned its imposing gaze toward his vehicle. In that moment of maximum tension, followed by sudden release, Elias was struck by the realization that had the rhinoceros possessed its full horn, the outcome would have been catastrophic. The buffalo would have been gored, possibly killed, merely for crossing the path of the angry giant. But today, the giant was gentle. As the dust settled, Ranger Elias finally understood the true weight of the moment. The rhinoceros, the terrifying giant that had scattered the buffalo, was the reason everyone survived intact. He recognized this particular individual. It was a well-known male, and its smooth nasal bone was a visible sign of a desperate, yet life-saving, human intervention. It was a symbol of hope, albeit a controversial one. It had been dehorned. Elias remembered the painful decision made by the conservation team. He thought back to the endless war against poaching, the sight of the carcasses, the silence where the magnificent creatures once roamed. Dehorning was a temporary measure, done under strict veterinary care, completely painless for the animal, akin to trimming a massive fingernail. The horn, made of simple keratin, would grow back eventually, but the procedure bought the rhinoceros time, removing the temptation for poachers, making the animal less valuable and therefore safe. The conservation paradox was on full display. A human intervention, designed to save a species from itself, had unintentionally saved a small herd of buffalo from a natural predator. The massive creature's aggressive territoriality, usually a danger, had been neutered of its deadliest consequence. Elias saw the unintended cascade of safety. The rhinoceros was still asserting its dominance, still clearing its path, but in doing so, it used only its bulk, not its weapon. Elias gently exhaled. The work of conservation, he mused, was often about choosing the lesser of two evils, sacrificing natural aesthetics for actual survival. The rhinoceros stood there, majestic and powerful, a testament to the dedication to keeping these species alive against overwhelming human threats. This was not a natural state, but it was a living one. In a brutal landscape, a quiet solution had prevailed. The lion, defeated not by strength but by circumstance, finally turned and walked away, its powerful gait signaling a change in plans. The buffalo, startled but unharmed, began to cautiously regroup in the thicker cover of the acacia. The gentle giant, the rhinoceros, resumed its slow, steady grazing, utterly unaware of the pivotal role it had just played in the lives of both predator and prey. Ranger Elias gripped the steering wheel, his mind processing the extraordinary scene. He reflected on his job. It's not always about grand, cinematic rescues, but about being the silent, steady witness and the guardian of these quiet solutions. He captured a final image of the rhinoceros against the vast horizon, a powerful symbol of vulnerability turned into strength. The lesson was clear. True strength is not always found in the weapons we carry, but in the power of the choices we make for the greater good. The rhinoceros, stripped bare, was still a force of nature. Its existence, preserved by human hands, provided a moment of grace for the buffalo. This moment reinforced the essential truth for Elias. Conservation is not a battle to stop nature, but a fight to give nature a chance. It requires connection, intervention, and above all, faith. The dehorned rhinoceros was the gentle giant, a symbol that even in the face of immense threats, life finds a way. If this story moved you, you're connected to this vital work. Find your own moment of quiet faith in the future.